To our informational session about the English Fluency Program. Like I said, I'm very excited for you all to be here. These are some of the team that you'll be hearing from today, and they'll introduce themselves as we continue on. We'll be hearing from Annie, who's our program leader for this year. Annie, give a wave. And then we will hear from Lauda, who's our Nurturing Minds Executive Director. Lauda, give a wave. And then Tina Johnson, who's our on-site program coordinator for this year. So you'll be hearing from them. And we also have some previous volunteers from last year in our audience as well, who you'll get to hear from too. So with that, I'm going to stop speaking and I'm going to let Lauda further introduce herself and to discuss a little bit about Nurturing Minds and SEGA.
Thank you so much, Miranda, and thanks all of you who are new to Nurturing Minds, or also thanks for considering helping out with our English Fluency Program, because it is a really impactful program, as you'll learn. But we thought it would be helpful to give you a little overview of Nurturing Minds and SEGA. So many of you know Nurturing Minds is the U.S. nonprofit that raises funds and awareness and provides some technical assistance to our partner in Tanzania, SEGA. SEGA, of course, is secondary education for girls advancement, and they are their own nonprofit, and we are in partnership with them. But Nurturing Minds only raises money for our partner, SEGA. Next slide. So this is our 17th year with working alongside SEGA, and we do have a joint mission and vision, really, which is to support quality education, life skills, and entrepreneurship to help bright, at-risk girls in Tanzania become leaders in their communities. And we do that really with a focus on leadership, entrepreneurship, career development, and environmental care. And we do have a shared vision of creating a financially self-sustaining model school for educating these very bright Tanzanian girls. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, yeah, thank you. And so some people ask, why are we focusing on girls? And in Tanzania, if a girl has a high school degree, a secondary degree, then she will have nearly half as many children. She's 10 times less likely to become pregnant as a teenager. Her earning potential, even with a high school degree, can go up by 7 times or more. And we know that when we invest in girls and women, when they earn, they tend to reinvest back into their families, buying books and medicine, supporting education of their children. And then something that is perhaps not talked about as much is a very strong connection between girls' education and the positive impact on climate change. So resilience.org ranks educating girls as an unrecognized but more effective climate solution than even electric cars, solar, and wind power. So I'm going to share a little bit more a little later in the session about other programs or all 4 programs that SEGA runs, but I'll turn it back to Miranda.
Thank you, Lauda, for that great overview. And so now we will transition over and let Annie kind of have the Zoom floor, if you will, and introduce herself some more and give you a more overview of the English Fluency Program.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. As those of you who know me on the call, this program is near and dear to my heart. I think it was Clark and one of the initial founders of the program, Shirley Young, who recruited me to go in 2017 for the first time, and this will be my 5th or 6th trip. So I love this program. I think one of the reasons why I decided to go initially in 2017 is that, as I told Clark when we were talking about that I should go and see the school, I said, well, I want to do something. I don't want to just be a voyeur. So it gives people a lot of opportunity to do things, both in and out of the classroom, if you will. So it's an experience that is really I think unrivaled, at least in my life, for feeling a real impact of what my volunteer work is all about. And I am a member of the board, should mention that as well. So The goals and objectives for the program, we've tried to, over the years, get really, really focused on our message and our curriculum. We've tried to streamline things and bring in some new educational pedagogy that is really coming from the ESL world, and then some other sort of newer teaching modalities. But at the bottom line, it's really not so much about teaching as it is about having this amazing cross-cultural experience. And part of that is delivering a fun and engaging pre-designed English immersion curriculum. We have that digitally now. When Clark and I started working on this program a long time ago, we had binders that were like this thick that had all the materials printed. So this is so much better. We also, as volunteers, serve as role models and mentors to SEGA's youngest students. For many of them, this is the first time they have left their communities. And so it's a big shift coming to a boarding school. While they've been there about a month before we arrive, they're still really trying to acclimate. So our role is really important in helping them to find their new home and get comfortable there and make connections. We encourage creativity and emotional connection to learning English, and you'll hear from one of the students later who talks about the confidence that this program gave her. And she's now in Form 3, and she's one of the leaders of the school, of the student population. We've also gotten much more, I think, diligent about documenting and tracking the student progress throughout the program. We do surveys both with the volunteers as well as the students, and then some of the staff at SEGA who are involved in working with us. We really have a partnership with the staff to make sure that the curriculum fits solidly within SEGA's mission. And then we have an amazing, lovely lodge, a volunteer guest house where we stay. And we have an opportunity to share meals together, share stories, other service learning, and then of course, have a daily debrief on how things are going and troubleshoot as needed. The structure and core activities are we start every day in the morning with a quick check-in with your co-teachers over breakfast before or after as needed. And then we set off in our teaching groups to our English fluency immersion classes. And we have now 2 different curriculum. One is for those who really need help at the very, very beginning level. And then one that's for really intermediate and advanced, because we have found over the years that we do have girls that are a little more comfortable with English. So we wanted to be able to challenge them and not just apply this basic curriculum to everybody. Already talked about the role modeling and mentorship. There's a lot more on that that we go through during our orientation calls before our trip. We have several orientation calls. Daily reflections and planning, I referred to that. The field trip to Choma and the cultural learning that comes from being in that community. The Ulugurlu Mountains are absolutely spectacular, and it's a wonderful place to hike. And we take all the girls with us, and obviously a couple of other chaperones and some guides. And that's a really lovely day, and really fun to break up the classroom kind of campus activities with that. The other thing that we do, which has been a highlight for everybody is we go to Mikumi, which is a national park. It's a couple of hours away, and we go on buses with the girls. And some of the staff come with us because after the day there, the girls go back to campus and the volunteers get to spend the night in a wonderful lodge and just have a little break from our our immersion program. So it's really a fun weekend. And then we get to celebrate Form 4's graduation day, which is always a highlight, and culturally just an explosion of dance and music and interesting things. Key outcomes is that we want the students to have fun while building confidence in speaking English as a second or third language. And I think we're pretty good about delivering on that. Next slide. So here are the dates. We leave, we'll be there Thursday the 9th through Saturday the 25th. The standard land cost is $2,700, and the booking deadline is August 1st. I will say that one of the things that's very nice that Clark and his volunteer group got to experience last year that I haven't yet, but will this year, is that instead of taking a 5 to 6 hour bus ride from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro, we get to ride the new train. And so that's like under 2 hours, I think, right, Clark?
Yeah, it's an hour and a half.
Beautiful. Okay. So that's some of the nuts and bolts details of this. And the next slide, please. So why volunteer? Well, hopefully by the end of this Zoom program, this will be so self-evident and you'll say, yes, I'm going to volunteer because this is going to be a trip of a lifetime. And so many of our volunteers, I can't even count, but we're about to launch an alumni group. And so we'll be able to track how many volunteers have been there multiple times. But we have people that come back every single year, every year. And many of them have gone on to sponsor students. And so the fact that they can come back to SEGA maybe to celebrate the graduation of one of their students that they've followed for 4 years is an incredible experience, which is happening this year for me. 2 of my students are graduating. So it really is that the data is so strong. In fact, how this program builds better futures for SEGA girls, we have some more to share with you. It also helps empower the girls to overcome barriers. They're, can be quite timid when they get there, as I mentioned. There's both professional and personal development that happens, the cultural immersion and lasting bonds. I still, when I go back, there's a group that's graduating this year that always wants me to take their picture and send it to their volunteer teachers that they had like 3 years ago. So the lasting bonds are really quite strong. And then fulfillment through positive contribution, clarifying personal and professional paths. So I think that that's it. And I'm going to turn it over to Tina, I think is going to go take it from here.
Okay. Is this the slide I'm going off of, Miranda?
Yep. Tina, the Zoom floor is yours.
All right. So my name's Tina Johnson, and I would be, I've kind of straddled the world of volunteer and staff, and my title is On-Site Logistics Coordinator during this program, which is just what it sounds like. I'm there to help make a smooth path for us in terms of the whole trip and also day to day, and also serve as a liaison between our group and the local Tanzanian staff. So I thought I'd just hit on a few things that we either maybe take for granted or haven't touched on here in the slides in terms of if someone's in a discernment process about, is this the kind of thing I'd want to do or not? Just to let you know that Nurturing Minds via Miranda's office provides outstanding support before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. So she's really there along with the rest of us to help answer questions and make the whole process as smooth as possible. So just to know that piece. Their office offers a very robust website in terms of someone planning on a trip. What's a packing list? What are cultural things I need to know? What happens with my money? What happens with the airport? All of those kinds of nuts and bolts. Um, Also, on that note, just to let you know that the program, you are really supported from arrival at the airport to when you are dropped off at the airport at the end. So sometimes people naturally have concerns. Maybe I've never been to Dar es Salaam. What happens when I arrive? And all that's taken care of for you in a very nice and kind of holistic way. I thought I'd also mention a couple of things that Annie has now touched on, but just simply what a peaceful and kind of beautiful and unique and bucolic place the campus of SEGA is. The whole area is beautiful, but the opportunity to actually live in residence there. Um, I've used in the past, I've used my work vacation days to do this trip, and I always say to folks, well, it's a beautiful place to go. It is a vacation. There's some work too, but you couldn't think of a more beautiful place to land if you're looking for sunrises and sunsets and mountain breeze and in the evening, that is. So it's a lovely place to go, and the lodge that Annie mentioned is a really charming place to be in residence for 2 weeks. And I also thought that I would just mention that these trips, to my mind, I think they offer such a unique opportunity for what I'd call authentic engagement with so many different groups of people. So that would include with the Nurturing Minds staff themselves, like starting with Miranda, with the staff at the SEGA School, and some who work with us and some who we meet through luncheons and discussions. Um, some of the faculty and staff at the school we have times to engage with, as well as obviously the students. There's the staff who work at the lodge. There's the school security team that lives nearby, and we're really all are in one community together. And I found this just to be a really special way to get to know a new country a little bit and new folks versus the experience of living in a hotel and going out and doing something and coming back to your hotel room at the end of the day. There at SEGA, we're living it and breathing it, and it's a neat opportunity. This will be my fourth or fifth trip, and I've been there in the context of a mid-career graduate intern in the same program that Miranda has been part of, and differing roles throughout. But obviously, I'm committed and can vouch for the experience. So I just wanted to say I'm also available as you're making decisions about whether this is the right thing for you or not. Very available through Zoom or email or text, so you can get my information from Miranda, and feel free. Questions big and small. Not everybody's comfortable raising their hand and asking questions on Zoom, so no question is too silly or too silly or too serious, and I'm happy to share what I know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. I feel like this is a lot of our fourth or fifth time, because I feel like that's what I also say in my introduction. When I go this summer, it'll be my fourth or fifth time going over. I love that. So thank you for sharing. And then now I am switching over now to introducing Clark, Roy, and Micah, who are with us. Clark led the program last year alongside Tina, and then Roy and Michael, this was their first time volunteering and traveling to the school last year. So I'm really excited for you to hear all of their perspectives. So Clark, I'll open that up to you first, and then we'll pass it on to Roy and Michael.
Sure. I guess I've led this trip again 5 or 6 times now, and it's just been a great experience. It's I would like to focus on the lodge, and the lodge where you'll be staying, which is on campus, has 6 rooms, each one with a private bath. And you'll be at least 2 to a room, if not more. And then there's a separate residential facility, a house just like 20 yards away, where we put other folks. And there is a cook, Loveness, who cooks the meals along with, I forget the assistant's name.
Haji.
Haji, right, Haji. And they do a great job. They prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you folks. And so the lodge is a great place to relax and prepare for your lessons the next day. And there's, you know, a big common room and a dining room, and it's just a nice place to be. And in general, the experience is really transcendent. I mean, it's you get involved with these girls who really come from nothing, and you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes, and it really brings about a great communication and experience between the two groups. And so anyway, that's, you know, I think that plus the trips that we take to Mikumi, the safari, is really fun. We do one day with the girls where we're driving through a safari park in school buses, which is interesting. And then the second day on Sunday, we go by ourselves and we spend the night in the park at one of the resort hotels. And that's a great experience. And the Mikumi Park is about 2 hours away from SEGA. And just also the experience of being in a land where you're a minority. As a white person, you're a minority. And you know, just how busy every area outside the school is in terms of just activity. And you'll also see, you know, many families that have a lot of kids in each family. And so it's a very, very, very different experience. But having said that, Tanzania is also very safe. There are very few guns, very small criminal element. So it's a very safe country to go to.
Thank you, Clark. And thank you for mentioning the visitor's house as well. I will follow up after this with a video that really shines light on the visitor's house, shows you the room, gives you a whole tour, and really shares more about the experience of staying there at the visitor's house. So Roy,
One other thing, the entire campus is solar powered. So that's a nice benefit as well.
that is, as we speak, I'm getting solar panels actually put on my parents' house right now as we speak. So that's fun. So Roy and Michael, share with us a little bit about your experiences at SEGA, your first time going.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on something that Clark said about the visitor's house and the food. I think we both gained weight while we were there,
Which was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, the food is delicious and plentiful, and so there's no concerns there. And further to what Clark said about feeling safe, any of the travels, even in Dar es Salaam, I never felt uncomfortable or afraid. I'm just looking at the pictures that are up on the screen there now, and I think you can tell that's my little teaching group with my other 2 volunteers, and you can just see the smiles on those girls' faces. Really says it all. Such a wonderful experience. That's at the end of the timeline. Yeah. I think you were mentioning, I think Tina mentioned about graduation day, and that was one of my favorite experiences, actually, because you can see these young girls in Form 1 who come in who are shy. They perhaps have never been out of their home villages before. They're a little reticent to speak. And then at graduation, the Form 4 girls come dancing into the graduation hall with music. And they're so tall and proud and beautiful and confident looking. And then you actually realize the little tiny impact that you have with these girls, that's the end result. It's a really, really interesting and wonderful thing to see. Let's see.
Shall I add a little bit?
Sure.
Hello, I'm Roya, and I loved my experience at SEGA last year. Again, I want to reiterate how completely safe and supported you'll be if you're traveling alone or it's your first trip to Africa. We had been held up in traffic from the person that picked us up, and I got a call from Tina saying, "Where are you guys? You know, what's going on? What's happening? Where are you?" So, you know, you're watched and you're safe. It's seeing these young girls the first day you visit. They're very, very shy. They don't know each other very well at all. And my group was a beginner group. They didn't speak very much. But within a few days, you realize these girls already know a lot. You know, they can write really well in English. They just haven't had the opportunity to have role models or to be put in a position where they need to speak. And I know for most of us language learners, that's always the hardest part by far. So we try to make a fun and supportive environment for the girls to interact with each other, as well as to help them along to be able to, by the end of the 2 weeks, really speak quite well, get their thoughts across really nicely. A funny story from Michael, that he had a very, very shy girl that wouldn't speak at all, wouldn't say a word.
Yeah, she's sitting, or she's at my right leg, Abinas. Yeah,
Okay.
and she, for the first few days, she was extremely shy and bashful, hard to get a word edgewise out of her, so much so that I was a bit worried about her. I asked the head teacher if they had concerns about this little girl, and he said no, there were no issues, not homesick or mental health issues as far as they were concerned. And I think it was the third day, I had written a word on the whiteboard for their vocabulary, and turned around to face the class, and Abinas, this little tiny chicklet of a girl, she's up off her seat and she's coming around, and she very politely takes the marker out of my hand, goes up to the board and makes a correction in my spelling, and then turns around and she has this huge grin. And that grin that you can see in the picture there, that's the grin that she had from then on. And whatever it was, I don't know, but there was just a little connection made at that point in time. And she was my little favorite for the rest of the time there. Loved it.
So the final thing I'd like to say, before we went last year, that was our first time, I was quite concerned. We don't have an education background, at least for small children. And we weren't sure, if we could do the job or if we knew how to connect with these girls or get them speaking. But the program was very, very supportive. There's a binder and book that gives an outline of exactly what you do every half hour to 45 minutes. You certainly can fill that in, but you're very, very well supported in how to interact with these girls. Learn lots of fun little songs with nice melodies that you can sing with them, because that's a great way for them to learn the language. And Tina was pretty passionate, I think, about getting us going with movements with songs, so that they're learning, the words of movements. And if that's ever a concern, don't worry, you'll have tons of support and you won't believe what you're able to do.
Yeah. And sometimes the curriculum book just goes off to the side and you just focus on having a little bit of fun with the girls, and that gets them perked up and ready for the next lesson.
Thank you, Roy and Michael. That was very insightful, and I appreciate the stories that you shared. And it is true that the kind of downtime, that movement time, the singing, those games, the jump rope, the football, or I should say soccer, all those moments really are impactful, and you have nice time for like organic memories with the girls, and it's very fun. So then now I'm going to pass it back over to Annie and kind of talk a little bit more about the improvements that we've been seeing in the girls' exam results since the English Fluency Program.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that we heard from our volunteers from last year, because you made some really important points, as well as, just shared your enthusiasm and what a positive experience it was. I guess having been there now so many times, maybe like Clark, we kind of take for granted the hand holding, right? From Moody, who's been a driver, who's taken care of transportation for us for years. It's just like he's family, and he's and his guys are there, from the minute you land to when you're, getting on the train, and then you're met at the other end. And so it is a very supportive program. I think that the other thing I just wanted to comment on before I get into this is that, so I'm going to talk about Form 2 and Form 4 exam results, but for those of you who will come, you will see such a huge transformation from week 1 to week 2. And in the past, we've had some volunteers who've only been able to come for 1 week, and that's okay, but they're missing out on that transformation that happens that second week, and kind of that deeper connection that you get into. So hopefully you'll join us for the whole time. So with Form 2, this is comparing before the program to after the program. So in Tanzania, there is a national exam that the girls take when they are in both Form 2, but Form 4 is when the results of the national exam determine whether these girls can go on for continued education. It is in English. It is 11 subjects, and it's a workout. They study, obviously, a lot before the test. But if they don't achieve a Division 1, 2, 3, or 4, their chance of going on to education is 0. So it's really important. That said, we have, as Lauda said, more of a holistic approach to education. So we're not teaching to the test, but we do ensure that there are mock exams, and there's a lot of support leading up to this national exam. So you can see the difference in Form 2. Before the program, we only had 1 student. We had 0 students in Division 1. That's the highest level. That's the best you can get. We had 13 students in Division 2, which is the next down. After the program, from 2019 on, we had 91 students earning Division 1, 176 students earning Division 2. Huge impact. And the same with Form 4. Before the program, you can see those numbers: only 23 in Division 1, 46 in Division 2. And then after the program, we had 284 students earning Division 1 and 79 students earning Division 2. So those Division 1 and 2 students really have so much more flexibility of where they can go on to continue the rest of their, quote, high school, their A levels, including non-government schools that are typically ranked better. So I think that's all I have to say on that.
It is. Thank you, Annie. Now we're passing it back to Lauda and kind of talk a little bit more about the 4 programs that SEGA has.
So we thought it would be good if you had a fuller understanding of all of the different things that SEGA does. And so the SEGA Girls School is definitely the flagship program of that SEGA runs. It has been around the longest, and I'll share a little bit more on the next slide, just specifically about the SEGA Girls School. But all told, over these 4 programs, SEGA now supports 2,500 girls across several regions of the country. So in addition to the SEGA Girls School, once they graduate, we continue to support the girls all the way through their highest level of education that they can achieve through university. So we now have 270 girls who are continuing through, who have not yet graduated, but in some form of higher education. So 99 to 100% of our graduates are going on to some level of higher education, with 70% going on to university. And that is compared to just 3% of men or women who go on to university across Tanzania. So you can see that they're doing very well, and you can see from what Annie shared that there's been a huge transformation since we started the English Fluency Program. And since those first girls who graduated after having gone through the program, they're the ones who, started to do just so much better on their national exams than any previous class, and it has continued that way. So it is a big impact. And then SEGA also runs something called the Modern Girl Community Outreach Program, which is now in over 30 villages, reaching 2,000 adolescent girls and young women. And it is a program that brings SEGA's life skills program, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, and entrepreneurship program out to girls in communities through mentorship. So the graduates of SEGA Girls School and the graduates from the program itself, we have mentors that go out and teach those programs to girls ages 10 through about 22. And then there's also an Empowered Girls Network where they can stay engaged after this year-long program through a lighter touch. And there's about 900 young women in that program. And then a newer program that SEGA runs is the Graduate Business Development Program, which is just reaching about 93 women now. It's been going on for a few years, and that we have ongoing business development skills and micro loans for young women who have their own businesses already. And they are, again, either graduates of the SEGA Girls School or graduates of the Modern Girl program. Next slide. And, we keep mentioning this holistic education, but this, I think, just gives you a little bit of a snapshot. SEGA is really, they use the Tanzanian curriculum, but then we add value in a lot of different ways. And you'll be a part of that added value. There's all of the, academic curriculum that Annie mentioned with those 11 subjects and different. But then we have a life skills program and leadership program that teaches all about reproductive health and communication skills and human rights, and really lets the girls see their intrinsic value and gives them a lot of self-confidence. And then we have an entrepreneurship program that is run in their 3rd year of high school, and that teaches them all about how to create a business. And so there's, they do bookkeeping, and it relates back to their coursework, but they do sales. They learn about sales. They learn about marketing. They learn about savings, and that all happens during their 3rd year. And we recently have partnered with Babson College in the Boston area, which is kind of the expert in the field on entrepreneurship, and they've just been working with us on updating that curriculum. And then the school is completely environmentally sustainable. I think Clark touched on that, but they learn all about organic gardening in their 1st year. You'll see gardens on campus. It provides about 42% of the produce to the school. We are run completely on solar, and we also have a rainwater catchment system, although that doesn't cover it for the entire year. So we do have to bring water in by truck for some months of the year. And then in addition to the English Fluency Program, which you've just learned about, we also have another volunteer opportunity, a STEM program, and that also is taught by volunteers like you who come to our campus for a week to 10 days and are really engaged with the Form 1 students midway through. It happens in June each year, and they're learning all about various science subjects in a fun way to get them more interested in pursuing careers in science and technology and engineering and math. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Lauda. Now we will Annie alluded to this earlier, but we have a video from a SEGA student who's going to share with you kind of her thoughts on the program and how it's impacted her.
Hello, my name is Beatrice Bonfast. I'm 15 years old and I'm taking science subjects. I'm from government school where all subjects were taught in Swahili. I joined the English Fluency class the year 2022 as a pre-Form 1 student. It is when my English started improving. I also attended an English Fluency class the year 2023 and I was attending it after class hours. During this moment, all the teaching that I got from Mr. Abdallah has enabled me to be confident and contesting for leadership positions in my school. So I had contested being academic prefect. We were 6 contestants, and before the selections, there was an interview. The panel consisted of 6 staffs, and the most required thing was about English speaking. And because of that, I passed the interview, and now I am a leader and a good English speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Beatrice was part of the pre-Form 1 girls when I was at SEGA for my first time with the English Fluency Program. So it's great to see her English development from pre-Form 1 all the way now to Form 3. And now she's holds a leadership position at SEGA, which is really fantastic.
Hello, my name is Beatrice.
Okay, so then here's a picture of the beautiful lodge that we would stay in that Clark and Roy and Michael and everybody has spoken about. And there's those solar panels, Clark. So join us in beautiful Morro Grove this October. And how to do that then is here's a QR code that you can scan to register, and they'll share more about the itinerary. There's a whole brochure that you can download as well. And then if you still have questions, of course, this is my email. But now what I'll just leave this slide up, and then if there's any questions, I'll kind of open the Zoom floor up for questions, or if you want to write in the chat, feel free, or just raise your hand, come off mute, and let us know. We have about 14 or so minutes left here if you have any questions. And then, as Tina said, if there are any questions that come up later, you have our contact too.
I was just going to ask Miranda, what about, God forbid, if any kind of medical condition were to come up while you're there, can you talk about what services are available? Is there a nurse or doctor nearby? Something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. And for volunteers who do travel, the majority sickness that I see is maybe an upset stomach from getting used to the food, or maybe ingesting some water they shouldn't have, things like this. So when those arise, there is a nurse at SEGA that is government trained that will visit the visitor first and then see if there's any medications or any support the nurse can give. Beyond that, there is a government clinic that is about a 5-minute drive from SEGA that SEGA, our hospitality and culture coordinator, and the nurse will go with the visitor to that clinic. And then if there's more support that's needed, there is a larger Aga Khan hospital that is in Morogoro town that you'll also be SEGA will go with you to that clinic. And then if there's even more support that's needed past that, hopefully there will not be. There is a larger hospital in Dar es Salaam as well. Will help, of course, with transportation, everything going there. We do also ask for all volunteers to obtain a medical insurance. So if that includes medical evacuation support. So if needed, if there is a medical emergency, then you'll be fully supported.
Great, thank you.
Of course. I also will share links to the CDC and other travel websites that's going to tell you what to expect, what medications or vaccines you should consider. And I will also recommend that you visit a travel health clinic near you to get more of an overview of what that should look like and how you can best prepare.
I have two questions. The first one is, do you have an idea of how much the overall cost? I was trying to kind of estimate the costs. So the costs to the volunteers, if we just do the program and don't do anything extra, how much is it generally, you know, a ballpark of generally what it will be?
Yep. So the land cost that Annie had up here earlier, about 2,700, that's covering everything from when you land in Dar es Salaam to when you leave Dar. So that covers all the ground transportation, your meals, your accommodations. It includes tips to all the tour guides, the drivers, your hotel staff, the lodge staff at SEGA. So it's very inclusive, all of that. Beyond that, while you're on the ground, you could look at maybe souvenirs. I can't budget for how much you would buy for souvenirs, but we do have estimates based on our previous experience for that. And usually volunteers might like 300 US or something like this to carry with them for souvenirs. And of course, laundry services are available for small change as well. And then beyond that, you would be looking at your visa. So if you have a US passport, it would be a multi-entry visa, which is 100 US for your visa. And we do provide support on how to apply for visa, all the information that you would need because you would apply for that online. And then beyond that, you'd be looking at your flight costs, which I don't know, where would you be flying from?
Probably New York.
Okay. So depending on that time of year, I would estimate, I don't know, Lauda, what are you thinking from New York for a flight? Maybe
Oh, you
12 to
mean the
1,500
cost?
Yeah.
for a
The
flight.
cost can be, yeah, anywhere from, 1,500 to 2,000. It sort of depends. The earlier you buy it, the better. And there's lots of different routes from New York. Amsterdam's a popular route, but you can go through Ethiopia, you can go through the Middle East, and different airlines will have different pricing, at different times of year and have specials and things like that. But yeah, that's usually around the average cost, I would say.
And no additional for the lodge or anything.
No.
Lodge is all included.
Yes.
All included.
Yeah. And that
Ours-
that KLM flight, KLM Delta that goes through Amsterdam, it's actually and I've done connections through, various different places, but that's what I have found is the best flight in terms of the shortest layover, but enough time, so you're not worried about missing your connection. And the airline is top rated and very safe. We did have some volunteers who used Ethiopian airline, and there was mixed bag on reaction to that. But I don't know, Clark, do you have any other suggestions?
Dubai.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
Yeah,
I route through Qatar.
one.
I usually route through Qatar. That's my favorite. I really like Doha's airport. It's really nice. There's even a waterfall in there. I mean, pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
I was
the problem is that for Qatar, the best connection is from Boston, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
was gonna say, yeah, I've taken that. That's a good one from Boston. I've gone through Dubai. Somebody mentioned Dubai. I mean, it's very nice. You're going a little out of the way, but it's a nice flight if there happens to be from wherever you're coming from, a nice one.
Okay.
But it just depends. I've gone through Turkey. Yeah, so but I think, it seems like what Annie said, those are going KLM is a good bet. I try to, do anything that's under 24 hours. That's
Okay. And
always
the only other question I had was, is there any concern about monkeypox? Do you guys get a vaccine for monkeypox before you go?
So I will share that information with you too, so you have all the resources that you need. But generally, we haven't been recommending a monkeypox vaccine.
Okay.
But I can.
Yeah, I just went and got shots because I'm going to SEGA on Tuesday, and I asked about it, and they did not recommend it for me and the population I would be with and that kind of
Okay.
thing. So
Thank you very
yeah.
much.
They've actually had some incidents in Tanzania, but it's like one or two or like five.
Okay.
And it's like very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I continue to monitor that leading up to the trip. So if there are any changes, I make sure that everybody that's in the travel team is going to be alerted to it. And really quick, I see a message in the chat from Louisa. And yes, I do ask up front for all of your dietary restrictions. Whenever you are booking, whenever you actually make your booking, it's going to ask you that. So we could let the team at SEGA know any dietary restrictions that they should keep in mind, that they need to accompany while you're there. And then Selby, I saw your hand raised.
Well, I'm thinking about it. First of all, I just missed what Annie said about the airline that she likes best. And the other thing is that, so you travel a day ahead of time in order to get there on October 9th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's the KLM flight is what I've taken, Shelby, from Boston to Amsterdam, and there's about a 2-hour layover, which coincides with a great time to have breakfast, and then you get on the next flight, which is is long, but
Yeah. I'd be coming from Washington, from Dulles, probably.
okay.
So that may be a whole different thing.
That's where I fly from as well, Selby, is I fly from Dulles to go over.
Okay,
And
good.
I usually do Qatar, and I leave at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll land there. I just booked my flights because I'm going this summer, so I just booked them last night. So then I land in Doha like 8:45, and then about 2 hours later, I'm getting on the plane to go over to Tanzania. I'll land around 2:45.
Nice. And that's what airline do you use from Dulles?
I use Qatar.
Oh, okay.
And I can share more with you, and Selby, we can talk more offline.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
But so we're right at getting ready near the top of 1:30. So if there are any other questions, this has been a great conversation. I feel like we've gotten a lot of information out, and there will be a lot more information that we will send to you afterwards. So I just want to thank you again. Here, let me stop screen sharing so you can see our faces. Okay, so
Hey, Miranda, can I just ask the final question? Sorry. The list of, just to know, the people who will decide to go in this opportunity, will be able to have their contact before, so maybe we can engage before arriving there. How is it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. We do have a series of Zoom sessions together where we'll get to know each other. And I also do start a WhatsApp group as well with everybody. And I think they're still talking. Some of the volunteers still talk in the WhatsApp group from last year. To maintain that WhatsApp group as well. Annie, would you have anything additional to add to that?
Yeah, we've also started to put the volunteer teacher groups together, because we do break. We usually get around, I don't know, around 60 girls that come for the pre-form program. Not everyone shows up who's going to be starting Form 1. And then so we break that into groups with SEGA's faculty member who supports us, Mr. Abdullah. He looks at their test scores and makes decisions on whether they should be in the beginner group or the intermediate and advanced group. And then we'll put together the teaching groups. So the other thing that's available is, which I strongly recommend, is for the teacher groups to schedule their own conversation, and they can review the curriculum. They can talk about some of the fun activities they want to do in the afternoon, because the morning, as I started to say, is really more classroom time, and then we have a tea, we break for tea, and then we have another session in class, and that is fluid. A lot of people go in and out of wherever they're teaching, whether it's the library or another conference room. They'll go outside to play games in between. I know one year there was a volunteer who's now become a board member who wanted to teach our group the what's it called, the
Garena.
and so we did that out in the open, and like by the end of the day, all the other groups had seen our girls doing the Macarena and Michael teaching them how to do it. And by the next day, every single class was doing Macarena, and then it spilled over to the entire school. So the entire school was doing the Macarena. It's just, an example of kind of this infectious quality that this program has.
Thank you, Annie. So thank you all again for your time this afternoon. I'll send the recording and all of the slides and all of our contact information. So please reach out if you would like one-on-one time with myself, Tina, Annie, Lauda, Clark. I'm throwing you in there too. Roy and Michael, if you would like to meet with any of us separately, please feel free to let us know. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you'll come.